Hello everybody, Kieran here reporting from Wouldn't Change a Thing. Today I will be interviewing Joseph Elliot. He is an author who has written a book about a girl who has Down syndrome. Hi Joseph, thank you for agreeing to do this interview for us at Wouldn't Change a Thing. First, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Joseph Elliot. I'm an actor, so if any of you have got small kids, you may recognise me from playing a pirate cook on CBeebies Swashbuckle. I've been on quite a few other CBeebies shows, including a lot of their Christmas shows. And I am also an author. So I wrote this book, The Good Hawk. And yeah, that's my debut novel, which came out earlier this year.
Can you tell us a bit more about the story for those who haven't read it?
So The Good Hawk is an epic fantasy adventure story about a clan that lives on the Isle of Skye in a kind of alternate mythical version of Scotland. The clan unfortunately get invaded by warriors from across the sea, and the only people to survive are a girl called Agatha, who is 15 and has Down syndrome, and a boy called Jaime, who has a very kind of low opinion of himself. So they're kind of two unconventional heroes who have to then cross the devastated mainland to try and rescue their clan.
What inspired you to write a book where the main character has Down syndrome?
So I used to work in a school for children with special educational needs as a teaching assistant, and it was around that time that I started thinking up the idea for the book, and it struck me that I'd never read a book with a main character who had Down syndrome, which didn't really seem fair or right, especially as so many of the children that I knew didn't have any kind of heroes in literature to kind of inspire them, and so yeah, I kind of wanted to rectify that by creating an awesome heroine that lots of the children I was working with could look up to and be inspired by.
Is Agatha based off anyone in particular?
So she's not based on one particular person. She's kind of got little bits of lots of different children that I worked with over the years have kind of crept in, as well as some of my imagination as well.
Why did you choose to base the story in Scotland?
I love Scotland. It's so beautiful. I've spent a fair amount of time there, both working and holidaying, and I just think it's gorgeous. It's got the most incredible landscapes, but at the same time, it's got a real kind of brutal, harsh nature to it. Obviously, it often has very extreme weather. The landscapes are kind of rugged and unpredictable. And that just kind of fit the kind of world that I was trying to create. That was an incredibly beautiful, but also very kind of harsh world that these characters live in.
Did you set out to write a book where the main character has Down syndrome, or did that happen as the story developed?
So the very first image I had for the book was of this girl, Agatha, who was stood on this high sea wall, looking out to sea for kind of signs of potential danger, and she just kind of popped into my head one day, and I knew that she was very bold, she was very determined, she was kind of fiercely loyal to her clan, and that she had Down syndrome. So it was always, the story started with her, really, and it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision that I want to write a book with a character with Down syndrome. It was, Agatha came to me as this character. She had Down syndrome. It was just a part of who she is, and I didn't set out to write a book about Down syndrome, and it certainly isn't that. In fact, in the book, it's never specifically mentioned because in the world they live in, the term Down syndrome doesn't exist. But it's just a part of who she is. So it certainly started with a character with Down syndrome, and then the rest of the story kind of spiraled from there.
How did you find trying to balance out people's opinions of others with disabilities?
So yeah, like as soon as I started writing, it was really important for me to kind of address the fact that there is still discrimination in our society against people with disabilities. And I think one of the things that literature can do so well is to, especially, kind of works of fantasy, is to kind of echo and bring to light themes from the real world and make people consider those. So I do have characters who kind of treat Agatha differently for the way she is or the way she acts. Some of the people in her clan like patronize her or belittle her, but I kind of set that up in order to prove just how capable and remarkable she can be, and she certainly proves that over the course of the novel.
How do you feel about the comparison to the Game of Thrones?
I love the comparison to Game of Thrones. I mean, Game of Thrones is like the best fantasy of this decade, really. Both the books and the TV shows, I think, are just incredible. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said that they didn't influence me. There's certainly been elements of Game of Thrones that influenced my own writing. And so yeah, to be compared to that, I always take as a massive compliment.
What would you want the take-home message of this book to be?
I think that I'd want people to kind of take home the message that we're all different, and it's our differences that make us great, that make us individual, and that no matter who you are or how others perceive you, you're capable of achieving amazing things.
When is the next book in the series out?
It's called The Broken Raven, and that comes out in February 2021, so yeah, February next year.
And finally, what are you doing in lockdown?
I have been writing book 3 in the series, which doesn't have a title yet, because I can't think of one, but it will have a title by the time it's published, hopefully. So yeah, I spent quite a long time writing the first draft of that, and I've just handed that in, so now I am playing lots of Animal Crossing, which is very addictive, and reading, lots of reading, and jigsaw puzzles, which I love.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, Joseph. That's it from us. Have a lovely, wonderful day.